Oh man, I really want to experience the magic of Dungeons and Dragons, but I'm a cave hermit who made an oath never to speak to other people again.
And I want to watch a classic fantasy series like Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones, but I can't stand the sight of human faces.
Well, I want to relive the magic of make-believe, the humor of a preschool-aged child, and the genuine camaraderie of nearly 10 years of friendship through only my ears, but I don't know how.
You ignorant fools! You don't even know about Dames and Dragons!
What? But Dames and Dragons? What's that?
Dames and Dragons is a Dungeons and Dragons actual play podcast.
A podcast? So I can experience the spontaneous group storytelling of D&D without breaking my oath of solitude?
That's right.
And I can take part in a rich fantasy storyline without ever having to lay eyes on a disgusting human face?
Never again will the faces plague you.
And it has a cast of 4 female friends who make constant immature jokes as they play?
Absolutely. I would never lead you astray, my friend. Whether you love D&D or just love a good fantasy tale, Dames and Dragons is the podcast for you. Tells the story of 3 unlikely heroes who are chosen to become guardians of the goddess of their world, a floating island by the name of Estra.
By God, that sounds like something I could get into.
Sounds like something I'd love.
Sounds like something I'd make.
Well, that's just ridiculous. Dames and Dragons, updated every second Monday wherever podcasts are sold.
This is Tabletop Babble. I'm James Introcaso. This week on the show, I'm talking with all of the Adventurers League admins about the upcoming Season 7 Tomb of Annihilation storyline. There is a lot in store. If you haven't heard our previous podcast all about the Tomb of Annihilation storyline and what it means, you should definitely take a listen to that. So now, let's hear what the Adventurers League admins have to say about Tomb of Annihilation.
All right, everybody, now I am here with all 6 Adventurers League admins. It is awesome to have them here. We are going to talk about Season 7, The Tomb of Annihilation. But before we get into all of the dinosaur, undead, death goodness, first we're going to go around the table and have the admins introduce themselves. So why don't I start with Robert Adducci. Who are you, and what do you do in the world of tabletop role-playing games?
So I am Robert Adducci. I'm the community manager for the D&D Adventures League. I'm also the social media manager for Fantasy Grounds, and I do some other Kickstarters and stuff like that as well.
Well, it's super awesome to have you here, man, and awesome to also have Travis with us. Travis Woodall, who are you, and what do you do in the world of tabletop role-playing games?
I am Travis Woodall. I am the content manager for the D&D Adventures League. I also play role-playing games and look at them and spend too much money kickstarting them.
Yes.
Word.
Don't we all? My wife is always like, what is this other book that you bought? Is it going to do anything other than sit on the shelf?
It's totally fine. I can write that off.
Yeah, exactly. And of course...
Holy crap, I never thought about that.
Yeah, man, you can. It's good. It's good stuff. So, Bill Benham, who are you and what do you do in the world of tabletop role-playing games?
Well, I think that's a fantastic question. My name's Bill Benham, and I am the resource manager for the D&D Adventures League. So what I spend a lot of time doing is making sure that content gets out to the many and various shows. Literally around the world, I've gotten a tenfold increase in content requests from Russia, and let me tell you, they're a fired up bunch, and I'm happy to support them. So that's me. That's what I do. I also spend a lot of money on Kickstarter, and my wife just looks at my books and shakes her head, and then goes back to doing her thing. And I too am going to write mine off. So I think that's fantastic. I learned something.
Yeah, it's a genius idea.
Yeah.
Greg Marks, Who are you and what do you do in the world of tabletop role-playing games?
I'm the associate resource manager, so I assist Bill with getting content out. Truthfully, in many ways, I guess it's kind of a weird catch-all position. I do lots of random assisting, whatever. In the world of tabletop games, I don't know. I don't do much. I'm new to this whole thing. Never heard of it before.
Lie.
It is also totally a lie. Yeah.
You've only written, what, like 200-300 adventures?
It's somewhere in the 200s now. Yeah. For, I don't know, about a dozen systems, a couple of books for different people. I'm sure you've seen my name associated with WotC, Cobalt Press. I'm working on something for Mephidius now, so.
That's awesome.
Lots of different stuff. Oh, yeah, not to mention cons. I do run 6 cons a year.
Right. So, and we should mention, right, you also have like a full-time job. And
yes.
Yeah.
Well, as many people often ask, how do I become a full-time writer and support myself? And the answer is, you don't. Don't do that. That is a really bad idea. You should have a full-time job, and then you should do it because you love it, because it will never pay you enough.
There you go. Claire Hoffman, who are you and what do you do in the world of tabletop role-playing games?
I'm Claire Hoffman, and I'm the associate content manager, which means I try and help Travis do whatever he sloughs off on me or second guessed on, as well as helping on other subjects if needed. I play a little D&D, but that's about it in the world of gaming, is going to cons and playing and editing and whatever Travis wants me to do.
There you go. Well, Alan Patrick, who are you and what do you do in the world of tabletop role-playing games?
My lawyers advised me to say that I'm the associate community manager, so I work with Robert. I do a lot of our social media stuff. Robert handles a significant chunk of that, but I come in and do some cleanup on some of those posts and kind of help keep things corralled and as organized as possible. I'm also the tech monkey for the group, so I am a gigantic Linux nerd. And do everything I can to keep the site moving and keep things up and functional and email going. I also play with some of our template files for like certs and stuff.
That's awesome. And I think, before we go any further, a huge thank you to me. Huge thanks to me. I'm amazing.
Well, congratulations, James.
A huge thanks from me to all of you for all of the work you do. It is truly a thankless job. You all spend, it's basically you all have a second full-time job with respect to the amount of hours you put into these admin positions. So thank you so much for keeping Organized Play running. It's the place where a lot of new DMs find their footing. It's the place where a lot of new players find the game. It's a place where some people only play, is at Organized Play events. So thank you so much for everything that you do for the community. It's really, really awesome. Why don't we jump in and talk about Season 7, the Tomb of Annihilation. So we know a little bit about the hardcover, right? It's the story that takes place in Chult. It involves the Lich Acererak is back, and he's stealing souls from people. Creatures that have been resurrected are starting to die off. Bad stuff is happening, and it's up to adventurers to find out why and stop it. That's sort of the basics. Chult, crazy jungle country full of pulpy goodness, undead, dinosaurs, we got it all going on. Everybody seems super excited about this story. The Stream of Annihilation did a bunch to, I think, help put some oil on the fire of people's enthusiasms, and it is now burning bright. So let's talk a little bit about the upcoming story. What can you all say about the Adventurers League story in Season 7? Obviously, we can't get too specific. I don't even know how general we can get. So, what can we say with respect to the hardcover? Are we going to be in Chult? What do we know that we can talk about?
Well, like we did with Season 6, it was kind of a testing ground. We're going to start orienting the Adventures League storyline pretty much right alongside the main hardcover storyline. So we will definitely be in Chult. The plan is to kind of run, our adventures where, with Season 1 and 2 and 3, you had a fair amount of geographical distance between, the adventure set in the Moonsea versus the hardcover stuff set in the hardcovers, and there was some logistical head wrapping trying to justify why the characters jumping back and forth. But with season 7, that's all we're gonna be right in the thick of it. The lower tier adventures are gonna be running just kind of parallel to the hardcover adventure, and then we'll be continuing the story a little bit with our tier 3 and 4 adventures, expanding on the existing storyline. So a lot of familiar faces between the hardcover and the DDAL adventures. As far as villains, can't speak a whole lot about what we've got up our sleeve, just because we want that to be a surprise. But yeah, it's going to be dinosaurs and zombies and wacky goblins with silly masks and all kinds of fun stuff. I'm excited for it.
It sounds like because you are taking this idea and making it parallel and tie into the main hardcover story so much, it sounds like then even people who maybe don't get out to a lot of organized play events, it's worth checking out the adventures once they go up on the DM's Guild, because then they can use those to expand the story of the hardcover if they're playing it at home, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like writing the narrative for season 7 was a lot of fun because I didn't have to do quite as much. I'm not building a city from and populating it with all the NPCs and everything like that. I did some of that, and I got to add new kind of locations and new people in the city, faction representatives and stuff like that. But it'll be, if for nothing else, if you're running the hardcover adventure with your group, you can get the DDAL adventures, and it'll just have, more information in the host city, the city that's been gracious enough to host us this season. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be an interesting arrangement.
Nice. That is going to be really cool. I'm super looking forward to this too. I love pulpy adventures. And so one of the things we heard a lot in the Stream of Annihilation was about this theme of death, right? And we heard about meat grinder mode, which essentially makes it harder to your death saving throws, only successes on 15s or above. We also know that there's this effect that creatures that die are not able to come back from the dead in the hardcover adventure. So questions for you all is, does this then, since we're tied so closely into the hardcover, does this mean that creatures that die in the Adventurers League are not going to be able to come back? And will there be a meat grinder mode option for AL DMs to play with everybody at the table?
So we haven't seen the final version of the book, so we've all seen the playtest versions, and so that's kind of what we're going on, but we don't want to make any kind of final decisions on what's going to happen with the season until we get our mitts on a copy of the book. We've been trying to keep as close as possible to the book, to all the books, with kind of minor adjustments, maybe to some adjustments on magic items and this and that. So there may be some adjustments, but or we could go straight with the book. But since we haven't seen it, we can't really say which way we're going to go on that.
Nice. And I think that sort of answers my next question, which is about Xanathar's Guide to Everything. You have presumably not seen the final copy of that yet either. So as far as options going into season 7 that might come out of Xanathar's Guide, you don't know until you've seen the final book, right?
Right. Yeah, we're very, very excited to see the final copy of that text come out, but it's not ready for general dissemination quite yet. Mm-hmm. I can tell you that there will be some really exciting, some really cool stuff in there, and it's not going to sync up with the release date of Tomb of Annihilation. Mm-hmm. So one thing that I want to remind our community of is that this new season we have this focus on exploration and that pulpy role playing, like you mentioned earlier. Take your time with Annihilation. You're gonna have a blast with it. When those new character options come out, remember that you can rebuild characters up until you hit level 5. So you'll be able to take advantage of those options easily, efficiently. It's not going to interrupt your game, and you'll be able to get that quality experience from that new product.
Sure. Sort of like, Volo's Guide. I know the release was staggered with Season 5, and yet in Season 5, in some of the later games that I played, I saw, kobolds and tritons and all sorts of Kenku and stuff popping up in my games. So, yeah, I think that's some great advice. Do we think that we'll probably continue to see the core rulebook plus one other supplement applied when it comes to Xanathar's Guide?
Yeah, the PHB plus one is really keeping a level playing field for new players coming into the game, and that's what we've seen with Dungeons and Dragons and with Adventurers League, is that we have more new players each and every week. So by keeping this simple jumping off point, we can keep people enthused about new product coming out and keep them at a level playing field. So Joe New Guy, when he sits down at his local game store for his first game, he doesn't get overshadowed by person he's sitting next to who has 5 rule books and takes one option from each and has this hyper complex thing.
I love that. I think it is just one of the smartest things ever. And it's one thing that I, as a DM, I'm like, I should bring this into my home game too, right? Just because it really does seem to level the playing field. It helps with power creep and all of that. And it, I know Wizards of the Coast has said that that's sort of their unofficial rule for everything else too. So it's great to see that. I think that is just super, super smart of you guys to have that rule. And it's great that new players are coming in and not getting intimidated by, this guy has 6 books and I only have 1. What am I doing?
We've had a lot of success with it, and I really don't see that rule going anywhere. I really want to keep it around.
That's awesome. I'm all for it. So you've got my vote. So when can people start playing some of the Season 7 content, and about how long will it run?
Well, you're going to see the first preview of it in a couple days now. 7.1 premieres in a preview mode at Origins.
And actually, Greg, I was going to say, we actually did a kind of a super secret special thing for the UK Games Expo.
That's true, yeah.
In June. And Martin Tideswell and Will Doyle and the crew out there at UKGE actually was able to run 7-1 when they were premiering the Stream of Annihilation. It took a little bit of coordination, but it was pretty cool. But yeah, it'll be premiering in the United States, like Greg said, at Origins.
That's awesome. And is it a Sean Merwin classic 7-1?
It is not.
Oh.
It is a 5 mini adventures, but it is not a Sean Merwin. Now there is 7.2. That is the tier 2 sort of intro, a similar situation of the mini adventures, and Sean has a hand in that one.
That's awesome.
It's an homage, if
yes.
you will.
Yes.
So you'll start seeing our previews and premieres in previews in June and July, August. Start to really see the hardcover hits the stores in September, and our adventures come out right around that same time, coming out right after it.
Oh man, that's awesome. And I'm going to buy so many things.
There's so many of them. There are so many adventures.
Buy all the things.
That's great. That's great. And will there be with respect to conventions then, what conventions, we already mentioned Origins. I've seen some events for Gen Con going up for 7.1. What sort of things can people expect as far as conventions where you all will be at and where there will be some great Adventurers League content?
So there's, we haven't announced any of the premieres, which we will be doing shortly. So, keep an eye on that. But for us personally, I got a lot of conventions coming up. Let's see, I'll be at Origins Game Fair in June. I will be at Druids and Dragons Con, which is like a camping con here in Colorado in July.
That is definitely a Colorado con.
Yeah.
Camping con.
Yeah. I will be at Gateway in LA with Claire, and then QuestCon in Mobile, Alabama in October, and then CarnageCon in November. And then I got a couple of tentative cons for next year, so quite a bit coming up.
How about the rest
I'll
of
be
you?
at Origins for the first time. This will be my first time to Origins. I'm very excited about going to Columbus, Ohio.
Ohio!
At first I thought I was in Cleveland. I was super excited to go to Cleveland because of all of Howard the Duck, but
It's the first time
you are
about Howard the
so
Duck.
unique.
I was telling my wife, I was like, I get to go to Cleveland, but I don't get to go to Birkenstock and Bugbears or whatever convention that Robert is going to in Columbus or in Colorado.
Birkenstock and Bugbears would be a great
Birkenstocks and
convention.
Bugbears. We need to like.
That sounds much more. That sounds much more Seattle than Colorado.
GoDaddy.
Yeah. Maybe
that address here. I'm going to GoDaddy. But I'll be at Origins for the first time. I'm very excited about that. I'm not going to Gen Con this year, but I will be at PAX West as per usual. Unfortunately, not able to make it at Carnage Con this year, as I will be at Gamehole Con in Madison, Wisconsin. Someplace in Wisconsin. They make cheese and they drink beer, so I should be happy. I'll be there.
Don't forget the sausage.
See, no one told me about the sauce.
Brats. Brats and hot dogs and
so I'll be at Gamehole Con in November. And then local con, New Year's Eve of Loser Fun in December. And then I might go down. I got an invitation to go down to Portland, which is like 2 hours away, so it's not that bad. So I might go down to Portland for some thing that I forgot the name of with the next year and a half. So that's where I'm going.
Hey everybody, wanted to take a quick break to let you know all about this week's sponsor, Loot Crate. Loot Crate is a monthly mystery crate that delivers to you the best geek and gaming gear. From collectibles, apparels, tech gadgets, art, and other epic gear, it's like Comic-Con in a box. Definitely check it out. Every month it's like getting a present from yourself, and then you order it and you forget that it's coming, and it's amazing. Woo! Prizes. Who doesn't love a little pick-me-up from Loot Crate? To save 10% on any new subscription, go to trylootcrate.com/DSPN. Again, that's trylootcrate.com/DSPN to save 10% on any new subscription.
Bill, what cons are you going to be at?
I am actually going to be at Origins for the first time as well this year.
Oh, nice.
Then I will also be, I'm actually doing my level-headed best to organize the D&D AL presence at PAX West this year. I will also be at Gamehole Con, and I will also be at New Year's Eve of Loser Fun, which is a little local show that a friend of ours has been putting on for like 20 years. The next thing after that I'll probably be at is Winter Fantasy in the beginning of 2018, and there's been a gentleman down around New Zealand that was like, hey, we'd totally love to have you come to the show down here.
About that.
And I was like, New Zealand? Sign me up. So that's what my schedule's looking like. Work's been pretty challenging for me, so it restricts the amount of time that I have to travel. So
Sure, of course. How about you, Greg? Where are you headed?
Well, I'll be at Origins for the first time since last year, and roughly 20 years before that worth of Origins. So that's my plan next week. I will be with Claire at Milwaukee Summer Revel 21, June 30th through July 2nd. I'll be at Gen Con. Then I've got Dan's Con of the Veil in October. Gamehole Con in November. Stuffed Cows in Chicago at the end of November. That's a good Black Friday con. You probably don't want to go stand in cold lines, but you probably do want to go roll some dice. So come check out Stuffed Cows. I know I'm committed to Polar Vortex in January and Winter Fantasy in February.
Wow, that's awesome. You people are all over the place. Claire, where are you going to be?
What do you mean, you people?
Well,
You know,
I'm going to take a short trip over to Origins, not that far from my home, actually, and be with Greg at Milwaukee Summer Revel shortly thereafter. I will be at Gen Con, and then Gateway Con that Robert's also going to on Labor Day weekend, which is in California, and then Carnage Con in November, and possibly Arcade Con that's also in November, but it's a local small con.
That's awesome. And what about you, Alan? Where will you be?
Well, I'm starting a new full-time job here in a couple of weeks, so my convention schedule
Congratulations.
Thank you. My convention schedule is kind of scaled down from what it was. So I'll be at Origins next week. I'll be funneling beers into our compatriots that will be there, as I see the rise of victory going up from Travis. I run a local show. I'll be doing that. It's LinksCon here in Central Michigan over 4th of July weekend. You know, just in case nerds don't want to go outside and be bothered with pollen and that dastardly sunlight. I've got Gen Con, Gamehole Con, and then a couple of local shows, Grand Con and UConn, which is out at the University of Michigan. But we've got some family stuff going on here. My son doesn't really want to travel a whole lot because he's 6 months old now, so scaled back a lot of my travel with work and the child and all that. And then next year, there are some surprises in the list, but once those get cemented in, we'll talk more about it.
There you go. There you go. I have to say, I did get to play a game with your son at Winter Fantasy.
Yes.
That's pretty
memorable,
awesome.
I would imagine.
Did you tap on Jen's belly, or how did he roll dice?
Well, Winter Fantasy, he was already born, man.
He was actually
he was there.
He was his own
asleep in a
person then,
stroller.
wasn't he?
Yeah. He was a little people.
It was
That would
shocking.
have been an awkward conversation otherwise.
I mean, she's used to it by now.
Well, that's awesome. So I'm excited that you all are going to be all over the place. It sounds like people can find one of you at least, anywhere near them at some point. That's really, really awesome. And hopefully I will see some of you at various conventions as well. Speaking of conventions, one of my favorite things to do at any convention, right, is to play in the D&D epics. And obviously, I know we can't give any details away or anything, but let's just say, do you have some Season 7 epics planned? And are you excited about them?
Season 7.
Yes.
Epic.
Yes.
And yes.
and you should note the word epics.
With an X. No, you have to do an X. You have to do it's epics, like EPIX.
Oh, yeah, it's capital X.
It's
Yeah,
got
Whatever
X's,
makes you
right?
happy.
Yeah.
Aren't you
What
the
kind of
editor?
That's why I said the X. It's in the style guide. I can show you.
Says the guy who keeps the style guide.
It's adding to it. Why aren't you following it? Yeah.
Says the person who watches over the guy.
There's the keeper of the guide. So we're kind of continuing on the trend that we started last season 5.
Yes.
Season 5?
6.
Yeah, we had 2 epics
Season
in
5.
season 5.
And then
It's
6
just a
has
smear
3.
at this point. Yeah, so season 5, we're kind of continuing the trend. We're gonna have like an epic earlier in the season, and then kind of a follow-up one, continuing my predisposition to leave as many smoldering holes in Faerun as I can. We'll have one to kind of build up the season, and then one to just break it down and just make everybody sad.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
So I'm really excited about. We've got some good ideas for the first epic of the season. Still hammering some stuff out for the second, but it's going to be totes awesome. I don't know what the kids say anymore. Whatever they say, that's what it's going to be. Fidget spinner #.
Nice. Well, it was season 5 Winter Fantasy. It was great playing at a table with Robert, watching him get shot by an enormous
Yeah. That was nice.
giant ballista. So that was stands out as
If
a
you're
great
not getting
moment.
shot by a
And to be
ballista,
clear,
probably
it was
doing
not
something
me
wrong.
actually. It was my character, but
That's right. It was your character, and you're right, Travis. It was a harpoon, I think, like a really big harpoon.
Yeah.
It was pretty awesome. So, does season 7 tie into previous AL storylines? We're gonna see NPCs and stuff from previous seasons.
When I was writing the narrative, I tinkered with the idea of putting some stuff in the season 7 narrative that was in the season 5 narrative that didn't get used, but I didn't want to seem like too ham-fisted.
Sure.
There will be some very minor background kind of stuff
Nice.
between season 5 and season 7, but it's mostly on Wizards' part. It's not on ours.
There you go. They are so different, honestly.
They are.
It is halfway across
It
the
is
world.
vastly different.
Yeah. And I would say there are probably, given, Acererak and Chult and everything, there are, I would guess, some nice nods to old D&D lore in general. Some blue milks, if you will, in there.
Yeah, there'll be some surprises out there for sure. We just don't want the new content to feel like a history lesson. We want people to enjoy the theme and the new fresh stuff without feeling overwhelmed by everything that came before.
Totally. It helps with those new players too, right?
Absolutely.
So that makes perfect sense. Well, I'm super, super excited. So how can I, as a member of the community, and everybody else who's out there who wants to be involved with the Adventurers League, how can we help you, do the Lord's work and spread the gospel of D&D? What can I do? How can I help recruit DMs or get more people to play or get people going to conventions? Like, what's the best way for the community to support all of you?
Say yes. Get people to play with. No, not neck punching. Come on. We talked about this. We've seen a huge explosive growth in the industry, and that's because people are talking about it. It's not just the game that you play in mom's basement. It's your Tuesday night plan. It's your Friday night activity with your friends. We've seen nerd bars pop up all over the country, all over here in the U.S. now. It's become so much more socially acceptable. Just keep talking about it. It's interactive storytelling, and that's something that humans have been doing since the beginning of time. So we have high hopes.
Nice.
I'd like to add to add some metrics to the discussion. So I was going over our requests last year. We got 222 requests for support, individual requests for support last year. That was for the whole calendar year of 2016. In 2017, as of today, as of actually about 15 minutes ago, I've received 150 requests for support since January 4th.
Wow.
We're on track to blow away last year. That's not just the United States. That's, as I previously mentioned, in Russia, the Ukraine, Philippines, Australia, New Zealand, United Kingdom, just all over the place. It's more and more smaller shows. And then for folks that want to I can't go to Gen Con or whatever, because I'm not going to go to Gen Con. I live halfway across the country and it's a pain. But if people want to organize in their store, I'm more than happy. All it takes is going to the website and putting in a request. I am more than happy if you can get 4 continuous tables of people together. Man, we can get an epic together. Or we can, if you have a responsible individual that I can speak with, we can get Fai Chen, for a big weekend event that you want to do at your store or something. Just be creative and come up with a plan, and then most importantly, let us know about it so we can work with you on it. We can help make your dreams a reality.
I had no idea that you can do Fai Chen at a store or an epic like that. Is incredible. That's really, really cool.
Stores love it. Store owners and the
Chen
people that
around,
organize. Man. Yes, Fai Chen is a popular dude. Yep. So I would ask, for anybody that listens to this, we had a thing, it was a month ago, where someone did a Fai Chen Facebook page complete with a picture with a Fu Manchu must. Don't do that. Leave that alone. But certainly invite Fai Chen to your store to do some item trading. That's cool. Players like it. Store owners like it. And we want to help support folks with that.
There you go.
Yeah, I want to give a... sorry.
No, go ahead.
I would say I want to give a plug for our CCC program and getting involved that way. We get a lot of people asking how they can get involved, how they could write one of the DDALs. Mm-hmm. I also get a lot of people asking, how do I get more involved with my local conventions? And I think that the Con-Created Content program is definitely a way to get involved in both cases. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we have a limited number of adventures we can put out directly, but we sanction a lot of adventures through the Con-Created Content, a huge amount of them.
Actually,
I was just working on one today.
He does a lot of that. I was just talking to Dave, Chris today. We were talking about Origins and everything that we're getting together for that. Since the Con-Created Content program started, he and the folks who work with him, like Paige Lightman and Cindy Moore and other folks, they've put out 36 adventures.
Oh,
yep.
Of Con-Created Content. It's absolutely, and that's blown up too. I get a lot of emails about people wanting to do Con-Created Content.
And it's totally a great way to, if you want to get your chops writing and kind of learn how to write in a slightly sort of still sanctioned way, but not as high stress as some of the main DDALs are. It's a great way to get started. And we definitely have found some of our writers this way. I mean, write your stuff, run it by us. We're happy to talk to you about it.
It's amazing how you have all opened up the world of Forgotten Realms, and now we're detailing all these great little corners of various regions of the Forgotten Realms. So like that's also cool. People are leaving their mark.
And it's interesting that not just our new authors. I mean, we're seeing obviously, so like Luke Gygax wrote one. Frank Metzler's just talked about writing one. Ann Brown from TSR just contacted me about writing one. So a lot of old school people are coming back as well. Really famous names that have wrote a lot of products in the past. They see it as just as good. Like this is their way to give back to the community. So
that's great.
You could be a part of it.
The designer, the author for 7-1, when that comes to light at Origins and so forth, that's someone that we found on the DMG who had some really outstanding. They weren't even AL adventures. They weren't community created content. He just wrote some really interesting stuff, and we're like, wow, you should totally do that thing you just did, but for us. And he said yes. So there we are.
Yes. Yeah. I think that, a lot of people sometimes question, like, are writers actually being discovered on the DMs Guild? And the answer is definitely yes.
For sure.
So.
Yeah, like half of our designers, over half actually, of our designers for Season 7 are people that were discovered on DMs Guild.
In addition to, into Fi-Chens, going out to stores and conventions a lot more, and to, the con-created content and all that stuff, we're also now just kind of this season starting to give out the D&D Open to conventions. So you'll probably see that a little bit more since we started allowing, kind of smaller cons. When we first started the Epics, they were, you had to have 15 tables. And so that cut out a lot of smaller cons and stores and that kind of thing. But we've since allowed those smaller cons and stores to have the epics, and we've started writing the epics for 4-6 tables. We still wanted those large conventions to be able to have something different, and that's what the Open has kind of turned into. And so if people have really big conventions, and we know we've done work with them before, we have let them premiere stuff or let them run epics in the past, and they've showed that they can run a big adventure, then we can talk about getting them the Open.
And that's an advantage to writing multiple epics in a season, is we can also write hey, this one's really good for small cons, or this one could be really good for big cons. It gives us more flexibility, and in when your con wants something special, we'll have something special that'll fit to you.
So why don't we quickly go around the table? Everybody tell me what you are most excited about for Season 7. Like, what are you super duper pumped about? And obviously, whatever you can talk about. I'm sure there's things you're excited for that we can't talk about right now. But why don't we start with you, Bill? What are you most excited for in Season 7?
Man, that is a tough call. I'm going to have to say that it's something I hadn't paid much attention to, but the more time I spend with Chris Lindsay, which is always bad in this regard, it's Grungs.
That's awesome.
He on his Stream of Annihilation, he ran an all Grung table of adventurers, and I was like, you know what? We get a lot of mileage out of those guys. Like, I see a lot of potential there. So, I'm being slightly silly. No, it's just the flavor and just the possibilities that exist in Season 7 are fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what crazy things I'm going to read online and hear from my friends about their escapades in Chult.
Yeah, that is going to be cool. I think hearing other people's stories is huge, and the Grung thing I think is fantastic. So, poison dart frog people, that's amazing. How about you, Alan? What are you most excited for in Season 7?
Oh, man. Well, for people who have read some of the previous adventures I've put out, I like big explosive effects. I like, decisive actions in adventures that have consequences. And what I'm seeing with Tomb of Annihilation and our upcoming content, some pretty heavy stuff. There will be ramifications for the decisions the characters make, and I'm really looking forward to it.
How about you, Claire? What are you most excited for?
Well, in part, I'm excited because Chult's an area that doesn't get a lot of attention in past products or even in past adventures. So we're getting to explore an area that hasn't had a lot of love. And I'm partial to undead, so any season where we get to have a lot of undead makes me happy.
Undead are one of my favorites as well. What about you, Travis? What are you most excited for?
I was going to say Grungs, but Bill's a jerk.
You can have Grungs.
No, I don't want
have the
Grungs
same
anymore.
answer. That's okay.
Grungs have been sullied. I don't want them anymore. Really, I mean, it sounds dumb, but plants. Like, plant creatures are I love them so much because they are unassuming and sneaky and deadly. So I'm excited that I get to use some sneaky plants.
What about you, Greg? What are you most excited for?
Well, I sort of have two. It's for different reasons. The first one is something that is coming out during Season 7, but is not part of the Season 7 storyline, and we've been teasing it for a few weeks now. The admins are putting together a special something that you will be able to get, or potentially in the next 2 to 3 months it should be available. So it's a really special thing. Wizards is letting the admins be in charge of something really cool. They're really giving us some rope to run with. And so I'm super excited on this project. It's the thing that I'm probably the most excited for that's going to come out during Season 7, but it's not Season 7. So to really address your question, speaking of Grungs and the people who eat them, I'm most excited for Yuan-Ti, both as heroes and villains.
Nice, yeah, Yuan-Ti. Oh man, there's so many great creatures in this thing. This is going to be amazing. I'm excited, and I am super excited for, I think we all know you were alluding to the sexy admin pinup calendar that is the secret project.
Spoilers.
January.
There are only thongs.
Robert Adducci, what about you? What are you most excited for?
I really like the exploration aspect of Chult. It's the sort of the lost world. Like, you don't know what you're going to find around the next corner. Jungles or streaming waterfalls or hordes of undead or just what is it? Like, there's so many cool kind of hidden gems in the adventure, and pulling stuff from the past, but also creating a lot of new stuff. So I'm just really excited about that exploration aspect.
Yeah, I think if you're a fan of Land of the Lost or the show Lost, right? There's a lot of aspects of things like that going into this, so it's going to be really, really fun. Well, I think that is going to do it for this episode of Tabletop Babble. But before we go, where can people find you? And Robert, why don't we start with you, because you have all of the information for the adventures, as well as yourself.
So you can find us at dndadventuresleague.org. You can search for D&D Adventures League on Facebook and Google+. And you can find us on Twitter at DND_ADV League. Also on Google+ and Facebook, we've also got a D&D Adventures League DMs group. So if you want to, talk about, if you're a DM and you want to talk about your games, feel free to jump in there. And I think that about covers the D&D Adventures League. And you can find me on Facebook, Google+, just searching my name, and on Twitter at Raddu76. That's RADDU76.
Awesome. And Travis Woodall, where can people find you?
Sadly, on Facebook. I'm on Facebook way too much. It's not good for me. I've been told, my doctor told me to stop. But
I can't imagine that there would ever be anything toxic on social media.
No, never. Ever in the history forever. Nope. Nope. I'm on both the Adventures League group and the Adventures League DM discussion group. You can find me on Twitter at Travis Woodall, super creative. I don't check it as often as I could, and I'm looking for it now, but Trevor Kidd just made a joke about how I never get on Facebook, and I literally saw it like 2 months after he made the comment. I responded, and it was hilarious, and nobody laughed because no one follows me. But yeah, that's where I am at.
Excellent. Bill, where can people find you?
I am on the same Facebook groups, although I actually apparently post so little that when I did respond to something, players said, "Oh wow, you said something so dumb it caused Bill Benham to come out from under his rock and respond." So I was like,
I'm just glad I'm not the stealth admin anymore.
So the Facebook groups where if I feel like I have something to contribute, I will. Otherwise, I'll just shut up. I'm on Twitter that I never check, at Bill Benham 2. I don't know who the first Bill Benham was, but I hate him. And resource at dndadventuresleague.org.
And what about you, Greg Marks? Where can people find you?
Obviously, you can find me on Google Plus and Facebook and all the regulars. On Twitter, you can find me at Scarrett7H3Green. Send me emails at the same resource email that Bill has. Usually, I'm on Facebook also far too much. So,
Claire, where can people find you?
I'm also in those Facebook groups, and luckily, Bill actually posts less than I do, so I'm no longer the least posting of us. I'm also on Twitter at Dragon View Claire. The view is VU, Dragon VU Claire.
Oh, nice.
Which I check daily. I post weekly. Sometimes I post a couple days in a row, and then you won't see me for a week or two. But the same email address that you can get Travis at for the content.org. We both get those emails. So.
And what about you, Alan? Where can people find you?
I lurk around the Facebook groups and try and back clean up on some of those comments if Travis and Robert don't beat me to it. When I have a little bit of downtime, I may or may not pull people aside and teach people how to summon Travis. It's simple. Ask a question that can be solved by reading the FAQ.
Yeah.
Yes, beer. I get it. If you want to get a hold of me, just post a question in one of our primary groups or hit me up on Twitter at Warftiner, Warfteiner. It is a nonsensical word, much like most of my life.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you all so much for coming on Tabletop Apple today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having us. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
I always love chatting with the Adventurers League admins. They are super duper fun. Thank you so much for coming on, to all 6 of you. This was incredible, and hopefully we'll have you back to talk about whatever Season 8 may hold. You know, Tabletop Babble is still a new podcast, and we need help putting our voices into listeners' ears, and that's where you come in for free. If you want to help out the show, you can head on over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review. Even if you don't have an iTunes account, it helps us a bunch. Go rate us and then rate all your other favorite podcasts, because it helps us all. It helps other people find us. It's really, really good. In addition, to encourage you to do this, I will read any 5-star review verbatim on air. You can make me say anything you want. Let's go to the board for this week's 5-star review. Comes from Laylath. It is entitled 3 horn with confetti shooting out of it emojis, which is awesome. Laylath says, James always brings on interesting guests and hosts interesting topics for tabletop gamers. His interview style is great, and I love the show. Thank you so much, Laylath, for leaving us a 5-star review. People, go leave me a 5-star review. I will say anything that you want me to. You know, if you want to support the show financially, there's a way to do it that doesn't actually cost you anything extra. Head on over to don'tsplitthepodcastnetwork.com and use the banners over in the show notes whenever you shop on Amazon or DriveThruRPG, and you then just shop as you normally would. So make a stop over at don'tsplitthepodcastnetwork.com before you shop on either of those sites, and we get a couple pennies on the dollar. Huge help to us, costs you nothing extra. You know, the Don't Split the Podcast Network family is growing, and we have a great new podcast called DSPN Presents that is pilots, actual play one-shots, and other great stuff that we will be presenting. So check it out, DSPN Presents. Go hit subscribe, or go to don'tsplitthepodcastnetwork.com to find out more about it and all of the other great shows on the Don't Split the Podcast Network. If you want to find out more about me and what I'm doing, you can follow me on Twitter at James Introcaso, and you can check out my blog, worldbuilderblog.me. It's got tons of great 5th edition resources like free adventures, free monsters, free magic items, all that kind of stuff. So check it out. I've been working hard on it for years. There's plenty for you there. I'd love for you to see it. It's got a great new look. Thanks so much, Ryan Hennessy. Tabletop Babble is a show on the Don't Split the Podcast Network, thanks to Rudy Basso for founding it with me. Our theme music, which you're listening to right now, was provided by Battle Bards. Remember, RPGs are like sex. As long as everybody's having fun, you're doing it right.